When investors compare bond ETFs, the first number they usually look at is the yield. And that can be a mistake, because when interest rates are moving, the number that often matters more for your portfolio's price behavior is duration. The basic relationship is simple. When market yields rise, existing bond prices generally fall. When market yields fall, existing bond prices generally rise. But not every bond reacts the same. A short-duration Treasury ETF may barely move when rates change. A long-duration Treasury ETF can move dramatically. So the best bond ETF is not simply the fund paying the highest income today. It depends on what you think rates might do, how much volatility you can tolerate, and what job the bonds are supposed to perform inside your portfolio. To understand all of that, we need to make one concept extremely simple: duration. Think of duration as an estimate of how sensitive a bond's price is to changes in interest rates. If a bond fund has a duration around 5 years, a 1 percentage point increase in yields could create roughly a 5% price decline, all else equal. If yields fall by 1 percentage point, the price impact could be roughly positive 5%. That is a simplified approximation, not a guaranteed return formula. Income, convexity, changes in credit spreads, and the shape of the yield curve can all affect the actual result, but the framework is extremely useful. Short duration generally means smaller movements when rates change. Long duration means larger movements in both directions. And duration is not exactly the same as maturity, although longer maturity bonds usually have longer duration. With that concept in place, we can finally answer the practical question. If rates are rising, where do I want to be? The first answer is SGOV. SGOV owns U.S. Treasury bills with maturities of roughly 0 to 3 months. That gives the fund an effective duration of only about 0.1 years. In other words, there is very little interest rate sensitivity, and that is exactly why SGOV becomes attractive when rates are rising, or when you simply do not want to make a major call on rates. The Treasury bills inside the fund mature quickly. As they mature, the portfolio can reinvest at newer market rates. So if short-term yields move higher, SGOV can gradually capture those higher rates without suffering the price damage you might see in a long-duration bond ETF. That makes it useful for liquidity, capital preservation, and money that needs to remain relatively stable. But there is a trade-off. If rates start falling aggressively, those short-term securities also mature quickly. The income then resets lower. So SGOV is excellent defense against duration risk, but it provides very little upside from a major decline in interest rates. And there is another ETF that attacks rising rate risk in a slightly different way: TFLO. TFLO owns U.S. Treasury floating rate notes. Instead of relying primarily on extremely short maturity, the key feature here is that the coupon resets as short-term reference rates change. Its effective duration is close to 0. That means traditional interest rate price sensitivity is extremely small. If short-term rates remain elevated or move higher, the floating coupon can adjust upward. This makes TFLO another strong option for investors who want Treasury exposure without taking a meaningful duration bet. So what is the difference between TFLO and SGOV? SGOV holds very short-term Treasury bills that constantly mature and get replaced. TFLO owns floating-rate Treasury securities, whose coupons periodically reset. Different mechanics, similar objective: reduce interest rate sensitivity. But neither one locks today's income in forever. If short-term rates fall, TFLO's coupon can reset downward too. So now imagine a different scenario. Rates remain relatively high, but you want to lock in that environment a little longer without jumping all the way into long bonds. That is where SHY becomes interesting. SHY owns U.S. Treasuries with roughly 1 to 3 years remaining to maturity. Its effective duration is around 1.8 years. That puts it in a very different position from SGOV and TFLO. You now have some interest rate sensitivity, but not nearly as much as intermediate or long-term Treasury funds. That can make SHY an interesting middle ground when rates stay high for longer. You potentially lock those yields for more time than with Treasury bills, while avoiding the dramatic price swings that can come with something like TLT. Think of the duration ladder. SGOV is around 0.1, SHY is around 1.8. Later, IEF moves closer to 7, and TLT approaches 15. SHY sits near the conservative end of that spectrum. So, for an investor who wants more duration than cash-like Treasury ETFs, but still wants relatively controlled volatility, SHY can make sense. But what if you do not want to make a rate forecast at all? Then instead of making a tactical bet, you may want a diversified bond core, and that brings us to BND. BND is different from the Treasury ETFs we have discussed so far. Instead of targeting one narrow part of the Treasury market, it gives you broad exposure to the U.S. investment-grade bond market. That includes Treasuries, government-related securities, mortgage-backed bonds, and investment-grade corporate debt. The expense ratio is extremely low, and its average duration is roughly in the 6-year range. So BND has meaningful interest rate sensitivity. But the purpose of BND is not to perfectly position yourself for the next Fed meeting. It is to create a diversified fixed income core. That distinction matters because BND also contains credit exposure and mortgage-backed securities. It will not behave exactly like a Treasury ETF with the same duration. For an investor who does not want to constantly predict whether yields move up or down next, that diversification can be valuable. But now we need to flip the entire scenario, because if interest rates begin falling meaningfully, the ETFs that protected you from rising rates may suddenly offer much less opportunity than longer duration bonds. Before we make that switch, one quick interruption. If this kind of investing breakdown helps you understand not just what to buy, but why different assets behave the way they do, subscribe to Boring Money Wins and hit the like button. The goal here is not to predict every interest rate move correctly. It is to understand the tools well enough that you know what risks you're accepting when you use them. And now the entire bond ETF ranking changes, because when longer-term interest rates start falling, duration stops looking like the enemy. It becomes the source of potential capital gains. And the first ETF I would look at for that scenario is IEF. IEF owns U.S. Treasuries with maturities roughly between 7 and 10 years. Its effective duration is close to 7 years. That means IEF can respond meaningfully when longer-term Treasury yields decline. If those yields fall, the older bonds already inside the portfolio become more attractive relative to newly issued bonds paying lower rates. Their prices rise. That gives IEF a combination of Treasury income and potential capital appreciation when rates move lower. But it does not take the rate sensitivity all the way to the extreme. That is why I think of IEF as the balanced duration bet. You are making a meaningful call that longer-term yields will decline, but you are not taking the level of volatility found at the very long end of the Treasury market. If you want much more sensitivity, however, there is one ETF that dominates the discussion: TLT. TLT owns U.S. Treasury bonds with maturities greater than 20 years, and its effective duration is close to 15 years. That makes TLT extremely sensitive to changes in long-term interest rates. If long-term Treasury yields decline significantly, TLT can generate substantial price appreciation. That is the attraction. But exactly the same mathematics works against you when yields rise. A bond can be backed by the U.S. Treasury and still produce painful losses because credit risk and interest rate risk are two completely different things. TLT has very little traditional credit risk. It has enormous duration risk. So I would never describe TLT as a cash substitute. It is closer to a leveraged opinion on where long-term yields are going, even though there is no actual financial leverage built into the fund. And this brings us to one of the most common mistakes in bond investing. People hear that the Federal Reserve is cutting rates and immediately assume TLT must rise. That is not necessarily true. The Federal Reserve has strong influence over very short-term interest rates, but TLT owns bonds at the far end of the yield curve, and long-term Treasury yield are influenced by much more than the Fed's overnight policy rate. Inflation expectations matter. Economic growth expectations matter. The term premium matters. Fiscal deficits and the amount of Treasury supply coming to market can matter. So imagine the Fed cuts short-term rates. At the same time, investors become more worried about inflation or future government borrowing. Long-term yields could stay elevated or even rise. In that environment, TLT might disappoint investors even while the Fed is cutting. That is why saying rates are going down is too vague. Which rates? The 2-year, the 10-year, the 30-year? Different sections of the yield curve can move differently. And once you compare these ETFs side by side, you can see exactly why that distinction matters. Now put the ETFs on one duration ladder. TFLO is almost 0. SGOV is around 0.1. SHY is around 1.8. BND is around the mid 5 to 6 year range. IEF is close to 7. And TLT is close to 15. That one chart explains most of the differences we have been discussing. If market yields move by 1 percentage point, TFLO and SGOV should experience relatively small direct price effects. SHY moves somewhat more. BND and IEF become meaningfully sensitive, and TLT sits at the extreme end. Again, duration is an approximation. It does not perfectly predict actual ETF returns, but it gives you an excellent first estimate of how much interest rate risk you are taking. And once investors understand that, another mistake becomes much easier to see: the obsession with buying whichever bond ETF currently shows the highest yield. Imagine a bond ETF is yielding 5%. An investor looks at that number and thinks, how can I lose money if the fund is paying me 5%? Because yield is only one part of total return. You also have the price movement of the bonds. In a simple illustration, imagine you collect 5% in income, but rising interest rates cause the ETF's price to fall 10%. Your total result is still negative. The exact numbers will vary, but the principle does not. A higher yield can sometimes be compensation for taking more duration risk, more credit risk, or both. So bond ETFs should not be evaluated like savings accounts. A savings account normally does not lose 10% of its market price because Treasury yields moved higher. A long-duration bond ETF can. Once you understand income plus price movement, choosing the right ETF becomes much easier. Instead of asking which fund pays the most, we can match each ETF to a specific interest rate scenario. If rates are still rising, SGOV and TFLO are the first places I would look because they minimize duration risk. If rates remain high but relatively stable, SHOV can still work while SHY offers the ability to extend duration somewhat and lock in rates for longer. If I genuinely have no strong view on where rates are going, BND makes more sense as a diversified core than trying to repeatedly time the yield curve. If I expect a moderate decline in longer-term Treasury yields, IEF gives me meaningful duration without going to the extreme. And if I have a very strong thesis that long-term Treasury yields are going significantly lower, TLT gives me the largest duration exposure of this group. But notice the language. These are scenario matches, not permanent rankings. The ETF that looks best today can become the wrong tool if your interest rate scenario changes. And fortunately, you do not have to build your entire bond portfolio around one rate forecast anyway. A bond portfolio can use different ETFs for different jobs. The first layer can be liquidity. That might be SGOV or TFLO for money where stability and short-term access matter most. The second layer can be the diversified core. That is where something like BND can fit. Then, if you have a specific view on interest rates and are comfortable with the volatility, you can add an optional duration tilt through IEF or even TLT. This is very different from deciding that your entire bond allocation has to be 100% short-term or 100% long-term. You can separate the functions. Liquidity money should behave like liquidity money. Long-term bond exposure can accept more volatility, and tactical positions should remain tactical rather than quietly becoming the entire portfolio. So instead of trying to predict rates perfectly, start by asking what each dollar in the bond allocation needs to accomplish. Once you do that, the final ranking becomes much clearer. So what are the best bond ETFs for different interest rate environments? For minimal interest rate sensitivity, SGOV is my default choice. If you specifically want Treasury floating rate exposure, TFLO does that job extremely well. For short-duration treasuries with a little more rate sensitivity, SHY is the middle ground. If you want a diversified U.S. investment-grade bond core without constantly predicting rates, BND is the straightforward option. If you believe longer-term yields are heading moderately lower, IEF gives you meaningful duration exposure without going to the extreme. And if you intentionally want a very aggressive long-duration treasury position, TLT is the tool, but you should understand just how volatile that duration can be. The key takeaway is simple. Do not start by asking which bond ETF pays the highest yield. Ask how much duration risk you actually want, because in fixed income, the safest looking security can still become a very volatile investment when you choose the wrong maturity for the rate environment. Understand the duration, match it to the job, then let the bonds be boring. That is exactly what they are supposed to be.